Welcome to the 2015 TFS World Cup Draw. And now to your hosts, Akshat Singhal and Ryan Schwepfer.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. What a way to kick off our live show here on the internet. As myself, Ryan Schwepfinger here, joined by Akshat Singhal, we will be revealing the groups for the 2015 TFS World Cup here live for you tonight via YouTube. We thank you for tuning in. Akshat, it's great to be here. Your thoughts on this lovely Monday evening here as we get set to announce this draw to a very eager audience after a bit of technical difficulties, admittedly, yes. But we are live, we are ready to roll, and the draw will be revealed in just a few short minutes. Your thoughts?
It'll be an exciting time. I'm looking forward to it. And let's get started.
Well, as always with TFS tournaments, veterans know the draws come from one Broncos 218, a.k.a. Tyler. That's his real name. Admittedly a bit strange to refer to real people by screen names verbally. So I think we'll go with Tyler. Maybe we'll just go with Bronk for short. But we'll bring him in here to discuss the procedure of how we're going to conduct this draw, like most tournaments, conducted by our friend Bronk, Syria A, for most seasons. We might address that a little bit later. But in the meantime, Bronk, welcome in from the West Coast. How are you this evening?
Pretty good. Thanks for bringing me in. Can't wait to get some World Cup action going in here.
Absolutely, and we are excited to bring this draw here live, as we said. But before we get started with the reveal of the bracket, I think it's good to talk about the procedure, because in most previous tournaments, we've only ever actually seen this played out via the forum. So this is the first time we'll be doing this in this manner. Talk us through your procedure of how you are about to draw the teams for the TFS World Cup.
Sure. So it'll be the way it's kind of similar to a Copa draw is that we'll draw a team into Group A, then draw a team into Group B, then Group C, then Group D, and then restart again from A and just kind of go through one at a time. The way we'll cover it this time though is the 8 European teams will be the first 8 teams drawn. Once we draw those 8, we'll probably take just a short break, get some reactions. Once we have half the field then we'll continue on and draw the 4 teams from the Americas group, again going Group A, B, C, then D. At that point, we'll have just 4 teams left, the Africa and Asian region. So after probably another small break, a little bit more reactions, we'll draw those final 4 teams from Africa and Asia. And then we'll have all 4 groups complete.
So correct me if I'm wrong, at the finality of the draw, each group of the World Cup, there are 4 of them, each group will have 2 European teams, 1 American team, and 1 African team. Is that correct?
Correct. That would be the Africa-Asia Misfits group, but yes.
Yes, absolutely. And is there any rhyme or reason to seeding teams within the specific continents, or is it purely random from each of the 3 regions?
There is no seeding whatsoever. Even teams since there'll be 2 European teams in each group, they can be from the same qualification group. So really the only rule to the draw would just be the fact that we'll have 2 teams from Europe, 1 from America, and 1 from Africa, Asia.
Perfect here. Now, as we're about to get started, let's take a moment here because not only yourself, you are in this draw here as the manager, coach, what have you of Uruguay, but Akshat is the Belgium coach and myself from Wales. All 3 of us have a vested interest in this draw, as do a couple guests, which we will bring into the show later on in the evening. But first, before we reveal the draw, Akshat, your thoughts on your qualifying campaign and how you're feeling right now heading into this World Cup.
We're feeling good. Coming off a 4-1 win over Austria in a playoff game. We're riding high. Hazard is looking in form, and so is Courtois. But we'll see how the draw plays out, and we'll see if I like what my chances.
Yes, we'll see if Oxshot likes his chances. That's all that matters here, truly. Bronk, without further ado, if you'd like to get started on revealing the draw, we won't make the people wait much longer than what they came for. Let's get this thing started.
Sure. So I'll be able to show you the sequence of the draw as we move along. So here is a picture, hopefully not too fuzzy for some of you guys, show each of the groups and where they stand. So all the draws that I didn't quite mention is we need to have just a randomization of all the pots and where each team. So we did a quick selection of those World Cup pots, and you'll be able to see right here. You kind of get a little sequence of where each team will go in. Again, this is more just to determine who will play who first. Nothing really to do with what team is going to go where yet, but just a general beginning to how each group will shape up.
So we'll be starting.
So I think with that we can go ahead and.
We'll be starting with Europe, correct?
So we'll start out with Europe. 8 nations from there, and I'll go through each one of the teams and managers. So I guess we can go ahead and begin the draw now. So we'll go ahead and begin. Start things out in Group A. We will have the Czech Republic, led by Knight Knowles.
Czech Republic, led by Knight Knowles, coming out of Group D in Europe. Bit of a controversial ending to that group, Oxshot, as 2 of the 4 managers dropped out of the league. You don't see that very often.
No, you don't.
And it resulted in both the Czech Republic and Ireland getting through. Now, certainly the citizens of those nations don't necessarily care how they got in, but fitting that perhaps Knight Knowles' Czech Republic is the first team out of the pot.
Although, if it's any consolation, at least all 3 of those teams were tied atop the standings with 7 points each. So it's not completely undeserved.
Sure enough. So moving on to the next group. In Group B, also from the European region, we have the Netherlands, led by John O'Connor.
John O'Connor here with the Netherlands, 9 points in Group B, tied for the group lead, won it on a tiebreaker over Germany. Good-looking squad, Oxshot, you have to say.
Yeah. They're riding high, too, coming off back-to-back wins in match days 5 and 6 after being last in the group before this last match week.
Overall tight group, all 4 teams in Group B of European qualifying finished with at least 7 points. A true heartbreaker for France and Portugal, but they are the odd teams out.
Sure enough, and so also just a quick note, once I go through 4 picks, we'll go ahead and update this broadcast image for everyone to kind of follow along. But moving on, we have in Group C, we have Ireland and Dave O'Keefe.
Ireland, of course, the second team, as we just mentioned, coming out of Group D in Europe, went through with 7 points, a 2-1-2 record. Actually played the most games in Group D out of anybody, so major props for that. As we all know, completion is half the battle.
Sure enough. And lastly, with Group D, kind of finishing off this Pot 1 group, we have Italy, and that is led by Lou.
Lou, a heritage claim on Italy, gets his ancestry, if you will. He'll be kicking off Group D of the World Cup. 12 points in Group C, relatively easy ride. Went unbeaten, in fact, with a 3 wins and 3 draws record in Group C.
Yep, he was one of 3 teams to not have a loss on his qualifying bid.
So now we'll go ahead and we can go ahead and finish up the European group, just kind of get an idea of how some groups are shaping up, maybe get some early matchups set up. So we'll begin back with Group A, go through Group D again, just finishing off these European teams. So in the Pot 2 slot in Group A, we have England, led by Pit for Life.
England, a member of my group in Group A, 10 points, clearly 2 upper echelon clubs there coming out of that group. And a good squad overall. Well, solid ratings here for Crobot, John Crobot, Pit for Life, 21.
Go ahead and moving on to Group B here, the second European team in that group. We have Belgium, led by Acing Hall 31.
And our co-host finally sees his draw up against the Netherlands. Akshat, your rapid reaction to that European counterpart here in Group B of the World Cup.
I'm coming for you, Jocko.
Okay, a bit aggressive here. We best move on before this gets out of hand to the second team of Group C.
Yep, and Group C, we have Wales, led by Arshwep.
And now we've got our other host here. What are your quick thoughts?
Well, first of all, I don't believe I've played Dave in any sort of match before, friendly or otherwise, so an interesting draw to start it, and a bit of a United Kingdom theme going on here, Wales and Ireland. And England, unfortunately, not able to make it, only 2 European teams. But it should be a good group. Get a chance to play some new owners. Looking forward to it.
Maybe we can rig it and put England in too.
Clearly illegal. Moving on to Group D.
So going back to the normal process, no illegal actions here. We have, finishing up Group D, that leaves us with Germany, led by Phi Guy.
Germany, the defending real-life World Cup champions. You have to wonder how that's going to play into it. 9 points in Group B, level with the Netherlands, but was forced into the second place spot on goal differential.
So that leaves us with the full European region is now fully drawn. If you guys would like to take a second, maybe get in some reactions.
Let's go to, we've got Jocko on the line here. Let's bring him in. Give me a second. Jocko, what are your quick thoughts on the draw so far?
Well, it figures that the two of us who have played each other so often in the club league match up in the World Cup. So Belgium and the Netherlands, I think those are 2 countries that know each other pretty well, and it's going to be a tough matchup.
It's a little bit of an upgrade from our Locomotive and Aston Villa days, but so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, I'm glad that at least I'm not getting 3 managers I've never played before, so that'll be helpful.
Well, so I find that part interesting because obviously when you draw these teams, it's likely that you might face some opponents you've played in club play, which is, for all intents and purposes, the bulk of our TFS activity. So, with that being said, have you had a chance to play Akshat with international friendlies at all, or has your previous activity been restricted to your club play in the league?
I think we did play 1 international friendly, didn't we? I think we did.
We probably have, but it's not enough to know each other.
No.
It's still going to be a pretty new experience playing Netherlands here.
John, last thought before we add the Americas region to the draw. Overall, how would you characterize your previous play with Akshat? Has it gone in your favor on the whole, or have you found him a difficult opponent?
He is a particularly difficult opponent for me. I have a tough time breaking down his disciplined defense. Hopefully, the Netherlands have a little more skill, a little more speed than the teams I'm normally playing with, so maybe that will give me a little bit of an in.
I do have to note that I did steal Series C from Jocko at the end there, so maybe he's looking for revenge here.
Perhaps some bad blood spilling over into
I like to think I gave it to you.
Say what?
I said I like to think I gave it to you with some poor results at the end.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see if this past history spills over. Certainly the opposite of myself. And let's go now to Bronk here to add the Americas teams to the mix in Group A through D. You're the third team to each group, the third team to each group. We turn it over to Tyler here to add Argentina, Ecuador, Uruguay, and Brazil. Bronk, where are they headed?
All right, well, sure enough, we'll go ahead and start out with Group A again. To start things off, in Group A, we have Ecuador, led by Cal Hockey.
Ecuador, we've got here with Antonio Valencia, led the entire Americas region in goals with 6, and also had Montero with 5 goals. So a lot of goals scored there.
Cal, another Ohio guy, as you and I are coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio, of course. He joins Group A of the World Cup here.
And moving on to Group B for the Americas region, we have Brazil, led by IJ Gator.
Gator, 9 points in Group B, was supposed to join us on this very podcast. Unfortunately, had some technical difficulties. Finished runner-up to the group master, if you will, Uruguay Broncos, 2-8 in Group B. Joins the World Cup alongside Akshat and John O'Connor.
Yeah, and I think it's understandable he's not with us because I think they spent all their money on World Cup preparations back in 2014, so internet connection down in Brazil lacking just a little bit. So moving along, down into Group C, we have Argentina and Red Wings.
Well, that's interesting for me, as Red Wings and I have a dated history of playing some absurd games in league play. Not atypical to see some 4-3 scores between the two of us, as his high attack philosophy meshes well with my similar strategy, as my defense in Serie A this season proved to be utterly atrocious. So that should be a fun watch, I think, as, of course, then, for the formality, that leaves us with yourself in Group D, Tyler.
Correct. Group D, we got Uruguay, led by Broncos 218.
Bronk, your first thoughts here looking at your draw. Guy and Lou, Germany and Italy, 2 teams that have won the real World Cup over the past 3 iterations. What are your initial reactions to that trio?
Well, I kind of think of as we upgrade this image real quick. I think Italy is one of the World Cup favorites, and even though Lou hasn't had, we'll switch that up real quick. Even though Lou hasn't had some of the titles and whatnot and Serie A and all of that, he definitely is an experienced manager. He's got some experience behind him now, and I think he's a real favorite heading into this.
And of course, you've always got the powerhouse Germany. What do you think of them?
Have we lost Bronk? Bronk, are you still there?
Yeah, I think I'm back now. The people of Uruguay were freaking out a little bit.
There we go. We've got the graphic up here showing you the groups here, A through D, 3 teams in each, just the African teams to assign. And you might surmise, that these 4 assignments are perhaps the most pivotal, because in the African region, you're going to get both Colby with Australia and Zikri with Egypt. Perhaps not the strongest teams on paper, but the 2 strongest managers in all of the league. And we'll see where they go. It could shift the balance of power here in groups A through D. Tyler, are we ready to finalize the draw moving on to Africa?
I think as long as you guys can hear me, I think we're ready to advance.
It appears that we fixed it, yes. Then, of course, we have some instant analysis to come. A couple owners here on the line ready to share their fate. But first, let's figure out where the African teams are going to go.
Sure, so we'll start out with Group A again. And in Group A, we have the Ivory Coast with W Seals.
And Akshat lets out an instant fist pump here with the knowledge that he will avoid Warren. Now, if you're me, that just increases the odds you're going to play Colby or Zikri, so not quite sure of the strategy there. Nevertheless, that completes Group A, the Ivory Coast, led by Warren, W Seals 9, Czech Republic, Night Knowles, England, Pitfall F21, and Ecuador, Cal Hockey 10.
That's right. And moving on to Group B now. In Group B, we have Cameroon, led by Hokie NYC.
Hokie NYC, a great player, but perhaps maybe the one you would have to say fortunate draw based on some of the successes from Warren, Colby, and Zickery. At least from my end, those are three people I can't beat to save my life. But all four of these teams ultimately led by incredibly strong managers, Akshat.
Yeah, it'll be tough. Hokie's had my number in the past, friendlies, whatnot, but we do have one win over him in the Copa, but we'll see if we can carry that into World Cup. It'll be a fun group.
We move to Group C, where unfortunately I'll be playing either Colby or Zickery. Doesn't really matter to me at this point. I'm in trouble. Let's find out just how much.
Sure, in Group C, from the Africa-Asia region, we have Australia, led by CMAX.
Of course. Of course. Well, I've got Colby, who unfortunately couldn't make this call as he's on vacation in Hilton Head.
Yeah.
To the victor go the spoils, you could say. You don't need to be reminded how much he dominates me. We'll be looking to perhaps run up the goal differential against Ireland and Argentina, as I might not have any other way out of this one. And to finish off the group, of course, to do the formalities, it is Egypt and Zickery in Group D alongside Germany, Uruguay, and Italy.
Correct, yep. Finally, finishing up the draw was, yes, Egypt and Zickery.
Well, now we can get some instant reaction here that the full table is filled, and we can go here to Group C, where it'll be Dave O'Keefe and Ireland. We'll be facing off against myself. And,
I'm in trouble.
Excuse me?
I'm in trouble.
Well, I mean, I have a similar reaction to this one. It's myself, Red Wings, and Colby, three teams that have Serie A experience. But what are your first thoughts here? I know we haven't had much experience playing in the past. Have you had experience against either Red Wings or Colby in the past?
I've never played Colby. Obviously, you never played yourself, and I have had a couple of 4-3 games with Red Wings this season, so that should be fun.
Well, that seems to be the trend. I mean, it seems like he comes at you with the 4-2-4, at least in our league play experience, and it can lend itself to be a pretty open game, a fun type of game. Don't get me wrong. But overall, I mean, what do you think you're going to have to do to come out of this group? Because it seems to me right now, I'm just thinking you're going to have to win those games against both Argentina and Ireland. It seems like almost a race for second.
Yeah.
Colby being as dominant as he is.
I think I just got to defend for my life and then take any chance that comes my way and see how it goes. Just there to have some fun.
How would you approach it? Would you tend to alter your strategy from qualifying? Obviously, for yourself in Ireland, a successful qualifying campaign coming out of Group D, admittedly, with that interesting dynamic of folks quitting, but 7 points, respectable. Do you see yourself altering your game plan with the Irish in any way, given the strength of this draw?
I'm probably going to stick with 4-4-2 and just keep doing what worked in the past. Get the ball to Robbie Keane, let him do the magic, and then defend Seamus Coleman at the back pretty quick. So probably just stick to the usual 4-4-2 and just hope for the best.
So how do you expect to defend the three-headed monster of Higuain, Messi, and Aguero, who each had 5 goals in qualifying?
Well, I'm sure they don't come up against players like Richard Dunn too often, so...
Well, you got a great point there. And that's some solid faith in your squad. We love to hear it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here tonight, Dave, on the draw here from Ireland in Group C.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now we go over to Group A. We'll turn it to the Ivory Coast and Warren. A group here, Night Knowles, Cow Hockey 10, 2 teams with Serie A experience, as well as England here, just a solid squad ratings-wise. Warren, your first thoughts here on this draw?
It's going to be tough. Me and Knowles, we have a little bit of experience against each other this season. We've had a couple good close games against each other. He's beaten me, I've beaten him. So that's interesting. I don't have much experience playing against Pit for Life or Cow Hockey. So I'm kind of interested to see how those games go for me. But overall, I think we have a good group here. It'll be interesting to see who all comes out of it.
One interesting dynamic that I find with these clubs is that, for the majority of our games that we play each other, we're playing with our club teams. And you get these international teams, and you're introducing players that are likely rated far higher, given our 4-star limit for some of these teams. Warren, how have you found playing with the Ivory Coast different from your club stops, and do you alter your style of play in any way?
Well, the way that I play with Ivory Coast kind of goes back to my Braga days. I run a 4-3-3, and I have my 2 speedsters, Gervinho and Gradel, on the wings. I have Doumbia coming up the middle, and then we got either Boney or Drogba in the middle. And it's kind of like Braga, where I had Eder in the middle, and then I had 2 speedy wings. The wild card here is Doumbia up the middle. If you look at my stats, no one's like really dominating my team with goals, but like it's all spread out. I think Doumbia had like 3, and then there were like 4 other people that had 2. So like with the Ivory Coast, I can just hit people in many different ways. It really fits my style, and I'm also really familiar with the team because I'm a big fan of them. So I just enjoy playing with them.
I did notice the balance on your team. Your leading scorer was 3 goals, 4 with 2
goals.
A few with 1 goal. Just seems like you can come at them from anywhere.
Yeah, and I think I had a good goal differential also. Like we didn't really give up that too many goals. But that qualifying group that I came out, it was tough. Like we all know, it started with Shifty. It would have been interesting to see how the group would have shook out if Shifty stayed in with us. But playing Beans and Hokie and qualifying, 2 tough opponents right there.
Warren, a simple question here for you. Are you happy with your draw?
Am I happy? No, because I wanted to be in Group B so I could play Akshat again. But no, I'm kidding. I think I'm fairly happy. It could have. We avoided some of the America powerhouses like Argentina, and then the 2 Europe guys. It could have been much harder if we got like Italy or say Wales, and how we all fear Gareth Bale. So
some instant reactions from Group Me. We've got a smiley face from Wings over here, happy about his draw.
Well, now let me interject a little bit on that one. It's a good draw. You have to assume, first of all, even though Colby's Australia, he's probably going to get through. The man is absolutely a phenom in all video games. Unrelated, he recently won the Golf Club Tours Challenge, whatever event, and he's got a Web.com exemption. Not a surprise. I feel like he just started playing that like a week ago, and he's already killing people. You can't say I'm stuck. I'm going to go ahead and pencil him in at the top. Now, then it leaves myself, Red Wings, and Ireland duking it out for second, and that's an interesting dynamic because I've won games against Red Wings, I've lost games against Red Wings. They've all had at least 7 goals. Never played Ireland. Could go either way. I do have Gareth Bale, and he's pretty good, so we'll see how that goes.
Some other reactions from Group Me. We've got Hokie NYC saying Ivory Coast with Seals looks like a lock.
Your thoughts on that, Warren? You've already got the support of the people.
I don't know if I would call myself a lock. Like I said, I haven't played Pitt, or I haven't really played cow hockey either, so I don't really know how my style would match up against them. I know that Knowles is good, so don't.
You're a lock.
I'm not a lock. Don't put that on me. But Knowles is good, so don't let Knowles go under the radar. He's a little sneaky with his little eye emojis and little dino emojis that he does in the group.
Good at GIFs. He's also another Serie A opponent. We have to say, though, Warren, congratulations on a fantastic debut season in the top flight. Your draw should be an interesting one, but let's turn it over here now to Group B, where now the full draw is known, and we go here to John O'Connor, Jocko, the Netherlands. Now that your full draw is known here, your thoughts that you're going to have Hokie NYC, another Serie A opponent, and one that's been in the consistent top 3 or 4 in the league over the past couple of seasons here.
I mean, I don't think it's a terrible draw. I'm not saying for sure that we're going to get through, but I think we've got a chance. When that's all I could ask for. We didn't end up with a couple of guys from A in the group, and so I think it's a decent draw for the Netherlands.
Have you had much experience playing in perhaps friendlies against either Gator or Hockey NYC, both of whom have had Serie A experience here, whether this season or in previous seasons recently?
I have not played Gator, but I have played Hockey NYC. And
how have you found those matches?
I mean, Hokie pushed me around a little bit. He definitely showed he had class, but I think I was in the game in some of those games. So, maybe Arjun Robin gets something on his left foot, and I get a little lucky, and we can get through.
Well, that was going to be one of my next questions. Obviously, the Netherlands very highly rated, some of the most elite players in the world, Robin being one of them.
Depay.
Another story there. How have you found, though, playing with the Netherlands? Have you adjusted your playing style at all from your club team? Have you found a way to take advantage of players like Robin who can simply make magic out there with the ball on their feet?
Yeah, I started with it was a tale of kind of two halves with qualifying. I had one formation for the first 3 games, and it wasn't working for me, and so I switched it up, and I brought basically the formation I was using in club over to the national team, and it's worked out pretty well for me. I apologize in advance, but you're going to see a lot of speed. That team has speed everywhere, and I'm going to play my strengths, so it'll be fast.
Well, certainly, when you have the speed, use it. I mean, I think if anyone has observed the way I've played with Wales, it has largely been through Gareth Bale, mostly by design. I realized that it would be fun just to kind of see what I could do with a player of that caliber. I'm not used to controlling necessarily players that good, given the 4-star cap with Hoffenheim, my club team, and previously before that, Columbus Crew SC. So I had to get that little reference in there. But I think it's interesting because when you're given the ability to use players like Robin, I think you tend to change your game naturally. You're not going to try to do the same thing as you would do with a 4-star team. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely. I like to run at people with Robin more than I do on the club team. And the other thing that's really great about the national teams is it's like, I got a guy open 60 yards across the field. Okay, I'm just going to put it right on him, and those guys can do it. So that's something that I don't have the luxury of with Aston Villa.
That's a good point. It's certainly a different dynamic when you're introducing these 5-star teams into the mix. And overall, just looking at the quality of teams here, you don't see too many teams that are on the lower end of ratings coming through, except for arguably those controlled by the elites of our league. Colby with Australia, Zikri with Egypt, perhaps a bit of an equalizing factor, but overall you're either getting extremely strong player ratings or extremely strong managers. And I think that speaks to the prestige and the difficulty of this tournament, Akshat, wouldn't you say?
I would agree. I mean, looking at the club teams, everyone is kind of on a level field in terms of star play, star level, I guess. But it's a different field in the World Cup. You've got a bunch of 5-star teams here. And then, of course, you've got Egypt and Argentina and Ivory Coast, who are 3.5, 4-star teams. But you've got these managers who can handle it and who can play with the big leagues. And it makes it interesting. Kind of evens out the field even more.
Now, we've teased a surprise ending to this podcast, and that's coming your way. But first, we'll turn to Bronk, who is on the line still, our draw master, and also the only representative of Group D, kind enough to give their time to this podcast tonight. So, Bronk, looking now at the full scope of your foursome of teams, what are your initial reactions?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm not sure how much of you guys heard me earlier, but I think Italy is definitely one of the World Cup favorites, managed by a Serie A manager and 5-star team right there. And also just looking at these groups, kind of the way it's laid out is the top 2 teams from each group will play first, and the bottom 2 teams will play first. So that means my very first game is up against Lou in Italy. And when we played twice this season in league play, his St. Etienne side beat me twice, even though it was pretty easy to beat Dynamo Moscow this past season. But he definitely proved his worth, so I think that first game is going to be huge for both of us. and then I think they'll kind of maybe decide who's going to advance out of this group.
Well, I find it interesting that you point out the order of how games are going to be played. Do you find that to be an important factor? I mean, overall, everybody's going to play everybody, but do you think that starting out with a certain draw can really make a difference?
I mean, I definitely think so. Especially, I mean, even I'm just looking at my own group setup and how things are going to shape up there. Just looking at that, my last game is against Phi Guy. So I think that definitely puts the pressure on those first two games. I think if I had played Germany a little bit earlier in the group, then by the time I play in Egypt or Italy, I could, almost be eliminated. But by saving that game for last, I think that'll be a must-win game, and I think a game that we can win. And so we've got to put ourselves in the right position there.
Now, the elephant in the room, excluding Warren's entire team, of course, would be the fact that you, Bronk, have... You like that? You have, of course, been a historically dominant manager, but this season seems to have fallen on a bit of hard times. But, of course, this World Cup is a new opportunity. Everybody starts here with a clean slate, these 16 teams. So where is your overall confidence at with this game, and how do you think your club performance perhaps might carry over or not to the World Cup setting?
Well, yeah, obviously, like you said, this wasn't the best season for me. And so I don't expect to be, the favorite coming out there. But at the same time, I do think I started to get a little bit better towards the end. And in some recent friendlies with Uruguay, we have definitely proved our worth, I think. So we'll kind of see what happens there.
So I kind of want to take it to an open discussion here. MVP, looking at an early draw, or early look at the draw, what do we think we have here for MVP of the World Cup? I mean, obviously we've got Gareth Bale, who accounted for 15 of Wales' 17 goals in qualifiers, and then Salah from Egypt, who scored 11 goals, I believe. I mean, at that current pace, those two seem to be the locks or the leaders. Who else do we got?
Also, I think in terms of which groups are easier than others, I think Group A is pretty easy. So I think whoever's leading the Ivory Coast front line has a good chance.
Warren, we have you on the line here still. Your immediate thoughts on that assertion?
I've already said this. I've played Knight. We've had some battles back and forth against each other. Like I said, I'm interested to see how my matchups go against Pitt and Cal. But I wouldn't call myself a lock just because I don't know how they play. But if you guys call it easy, it's easy, whatever.
And I can speak to, first of all, I mean, for me, I find it interesting. One thing with Serie A is that you find Zickery and Colby, two super strong managers. They have also two of perhaps the strongest four-star teams in the game in PSV and Shakhtar. Now, of course, PSV lost some talent. Shakhtar lost some talent. We'll see how that transitions over to FIFA 16. But for me, given the opportunity, given my late draft pick, to pick Wales and have a player like Gareth Bale, it's a whole other dimension for me. It's a dimension that I can't even begin to fathom with Hoffenheim, despite Roberto Firmino being a good player, nowhere near Gareth Bale in terms of the speed and the ability on the ball. So it's just, it's fun. It's fun to take advantage of. And I don't expect it to be as easy, given that I'm going to be playing against Colby. I'm going to be playing against the Serie A manager, a manager I've never seen before in Ireland. So I wouldn't necessarily expect that type of production. But at the same time, it is interesting when you inject this 5-star, 4.5-star talent into a world that's typically only used to 4-star teams. It's a different kind of game.
I agree. I mean, even for me with Belgium, having someone like Eden Hazard, I mean, it's a different game altogether, having that speed and having that those skill moves. It's different. I mean, my locomotive side, we've got people like Maicon, we've got people like Yusufa, but it's not the same as having people as having Hazard and Hazard and Morales and De Bruyne and all those people, and then obviously having people like having a goalkeeper like Courtois, who's I think the second highest rated keeper in the game. It makes things a lot easier defensively.
Well, now we've teased a bit of a surprise ending, and I think we're about ready to go to that ending. For those of you who have continued to stay on the show here with us, we really appreciate your time. And we now go to our fearless leader, the one, the only, Red Al, who is on the line with us here to, from what I understand, I don't want to steal your thunder here, Red Al, but we have some news to talk about. Is that correct?
I do have a little bit of league news to divulge here at the end of the World Cup draw. It has nothing to do with the World Cup, but the votes are in for a couple of our MVP award winners.
Okay, what do we got?
We can start with the Serie B with a unanimous 6 first-place votes. Carlos Tevez is your Serie B MVP.
It seemed to be a given, considering he scored 13 goals in, I believe, 7 matches, and that was good for second in the league. Who knows what he would have done if he had been on Boca for the entire season. But congrats to Tevez.
I believe he is our first winner who was added to a team mid-season.
When you talk about a transfer window success, that might be it then, huh?
Correct.
When you get an 85 overall on a 4-star team, it's pretty much a given he's going to run away with some awards.
That's a true statement. We can move on to Serie C now, where another unanimous selection, all 6 first-place votes, are going to Maicon of Lokomotiv Moscow.
Well, we are perhaps fortunate enough to have the manager of Lokomotiv Moscow here on the podcast. That's, of course, Akshat. So you've won Series C. You finally emerged from C after several seasons
of mediocrity.
Well, that and of Colby and maybe myself, giving you some ribbing, Warren, perhaps. Overall, the thoughts on your season, finally getting up to C, and Maicon's year.
He was pretty important for my offense. 12 goals, 7 assists. I think he was tied for third in goals and second in assists. I changed up my formation this season, went to a 4-2, put Maicon up top. Made it easy for you to get behind the defense. Overall, about my season, I dropped some points that I wish I hadn't, but in the end, it didn't matter. And a late season win, actually my very last match of the season, put me 1 point ahead of Jocko for the Series C title and promotion, finally. So I do want to give Jocko's thoughts on that.
Jocko, we're going to drop you. We might as well get into the reactions. So just overall, your thoughts on Maicon winning MVP and the type of challenge that presented.
Tough to argue with those numbers and the fact that everybody was screaming about what a nightmare he was to cover in the chat. So so much speed, so much skill. Not only that, I mean, he had a bunch of goals where he held people off as well too to bang it home. So tough to argue with Maicon. I mean, a little disappointing on the title because I was in first place halfway through the season. I had a 1-point lead on him. Ended up finishing 1 point behind him. You know, you look at any one of those games throughout the season where, you know, Victor Eniyama stonewalling me or whoever it was, and I couldn't get the 3 points and had to settle for 1 instead. So it's a little disappointing, but you know, if I had won it, I have to say that, you know, I think Akshat had my number during the season. He beat me twice, so it's tough to say I deserved it.
That's true, but I mean, we did play some close matches, like always. I think we've done that all however many matches we played, 4 or 5 matches. It's always been a close one. A formidable opponent, and it was a tight season. And
well, we're on the subject here of promotion. Of course, Akshat going up to B. We also have an impending here playoff with Dave, who is the manager of Marseille, away from his time with Ireland. Interesting split of duties there, of course. Dave, heading into this playoff, while we get back to league play, what are you thinking about here as you're about to attempt to go up to Serie A?
Yeah, I'm got a playoff game against Beans. I just lost to him 4-3 in the last match week, but I have beaten him. That was the first time he's ever beaten me. We played maybe 4 or 5 times, so I'm pretty confident in a one-off game to advance and to very surprisingly go up to A within 2 seasons. But a lot of that has got to do with Marseille, very strong team. But obviously they've lost a lot of players now, so we'll have to look for a new team next season, whether it's in A or if I stay in B. But pretty confident, but you never know.
When you talk about going from C to B to A, a couple people who have done that are in this very chat. Of course, myself, no one wants to hear about that. I'm never going to do anything in A. But we have Warren here, who is perhaps the next prodigy, if you will. He's done it. He had a strong showing in his first season in A. Warren, your advice, if you were to give any to Dave in Ireland, just on what it takes to make that leap as you did in the past 2 seasons.
Well, going up through the levels, C was what it was. It was easy.
A couple games against Akshat will do that to you. Yes.
While we're on that subject, I want to send a special shout out to Akshat to finally get out of C. Good job, buddy.
We're all proud of it here in Central Ohio. It's making waves.
But back on subject, advice, I just say play your game. Just do what you do. If you try to change your game up too much to try to match someone else's, it could throw you off. So just in your game against Beans, he'll come at you defensively. So what you want to do is just play your game.
Yeah.
Fairly straightforward.
Thank you.
I'd also like to point out that before this season, I did predict that Warren would finish top half of A, and I got ridiculed for that. And
hey, I didn't.
He ended the season 4th, so congrats on that in your very first season in A. It's a different animal up there, I've heard.
Yeah, which is crazy because I started off 1-1-4. I got blitzed by Colby and Zikri.
Well, what he's not telling you is that one win, I believe, if I remember correctly, was like a 4-0 win over myself. So, I mean, if you look at the standings, I just dole out the points to my friends with absolutely no ability to do anything otherwise. So,
my first win was the 3-0 victory against Besh. That was it. And then I was sitting there like, oh, man, I don't know if I'm ready for A. And then I got coaching from Colby, and then he helped me out, and then locked it down and said, you know what? Akshat said I can finish top 6. I'm going to go finish top 6. So I did it.
I'm just here to make you better.
Well, we have here our Commissioner Red Al on the line. Of course, a neutral party to these World Cup groups. Just overall, what are your thoughts here on the draw as an unbiased observer looking at these 16 teams?
Well, I can tell you first off that Ecuador is going to get 0 points out of their group. They'll be dead last with probably a -20 goal differential. That I know for sure.
That'll happen when you listen to too much Nickelback.
Yeah, I will. But I'm having a hard time looking past the bottom half of this bracket. I'm having a hard time looking past Mac and Zik. They're going to...
So, of course, well, it's hard not to fixate on Colby and Zikri, given clear favorites emerge in the other 2 groups.
Clear favorites? No. I think Seals will make it out, whether that's in first or second, I'm not sure. I think Pitt has a shout if he can beat either Knowles or Seals, but I don't see that happening. Cal will not win a game, so we don't have to worry about him. In the other group there, I like Hokie and I like Jocko.
I disagree.
I don't. I
don't. Shot, I'll say it for you. I can say that. Okay.
It's okay. I don't like you either.
Yeah, that's fine. You very well could make it out of that group. I just think Netherlands is a better team than Belgium right now. You had Hazard, you had all these players, and nobody really showed up.
Excuse me, Hazard had a hat trick in the very last match, so.
Oh, so he's rolling in there. Okay. And similarly, sorry, Schwett, but I don't see Gareth Bale scoring 15 goals.
I would admit it, neither do I. I don't think that's going to happen. But if I could score just a couple goals against Wings and Dave, that could be the difference.
It might take a little more than a
I'm
couple.
essentially forgetting about the games against Colby. I'm going to use them as glorified training sessions, and I'm going to focus on the other games, and we'll see if that can get me out. But Colby, if you're listening down in Hilton Head, I am preparing to once again lose fantastically against you. So that's just how it is.
I like the optimism. Let's do some quick World Cup predictions. Final four. Who's going to make the championship or finals, whatever.
We can start with you, Red. Just your quick thoughts here at a final prediction to come out of this thing, given the teams and the owners managing them.
Final four, semifinals. I'll take Mac. Mac will play. I want to say Zick, but my heart says Bronk, so I'm going to go with Bronk.
We'll get his reaction. I'm going to come over in a second. But what else you got in the other half of it?
Up top, I'm going to take Seals, and I'm going to take
Ireland.
You're on the bottom, buddy. I'm not going to take Ecuador because they're not going to win a game. But
strong words against Ecuador here.
Between Hokie and Jocko, I'm going to go with Hokie.
Serie A pedigree in Red Owl's picks. Dave, Ireland, your quick thoughts. If you had to predict a final, what would you say?
Ecuador to win the whole thing.
It's not happening.
No,
So dangerous we won't even consider it. Your actual prediction, please.
I think Netherlands have a good chance, and Italy.
Yeah, we know Bronk was tipping Italy earlier to win. Jocko, Netherlands, are you also on the Italy bandwagon, or are you finding yourself going a different direction?
I got to say it's a cup, and it's hard to pick against the cup kings. So I'm going to go with Zikri. And over on the other half, I do like Seals.
Warren, he's picking you to win it. Are you going to make a similar prediction and pick yourself to get to the final, or are you going a different way?
I would say for semifinals, starting with the bottom, I'll go with Zikri to make it out of D. There's just nobody in TFS stopping him right now. Group C, it could get interesting. I like Colby, but who knows what Wings will do with the best player in the game and Messi, and then a three-headed monster behind him in Higuain, Di Maria, and Tevez. And don't forget about Aguero either, so four-headed monster. Group B, I'm thinking, is Akshat elite? Can he make it to the semifinals? I think I'm going to go with him.
Yes!
And then in Group A, I'll pick myself. I think I have the confidence in myself to make it to the semifinals.
Okay.
Now in the finals, Zick and Mac. That's a coin toss right there.
Now, see, everyone, you tend to go Zick and Mac based on league performance, but you look at the strength of a lot of these teams, and you have to say that Australia and Egypt are on the lower end of things. So
right.
For me, it's a bit of an inverse because in league play, they've somehow managed to climb themselves to two incredibly strong four-star teams. Here it's a different story, and like you say, Argentina and Red Wings, that could be a 4-goal-a-game offense, given the way he plays and the quality of those players. You don't know what you're going to get. I mean, myself with Wales, we don't exactly have the strongest defense. We basically have two guys that play at top clubs, and we got a bunch of no-names for the most part. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not confident in my defense to stop Argentina, led by Red Wings. I'm not confident in my ability to stop Colby with any team, even if he were the Indian national team Akshat. So
excuse me.
From that standpoint, it's just an interesting dynamic because of the quality of teams being played here. So you look at a guy like Argentina, Germany with Figai, one of the strongest overall teams, against Zikri, and it could be an interesting clash. Zikri, I've played games where I've beaten him when he's outshot me by roughly a ratio of 5-1, but I've still somehow managed to win. And Egypt against Germany, you could say the odds are slightly more likely for that to happen. So I don't know how this is going to play out.
Yeah,
Right.
all these the difference in team levels could be the difference here. I mean, Colby, we all know what he can do. We know what Zikri can do, but I mean, you've got Argentina going up against an Australian defense that may not be as good, and seems like Wings has figured out how to use that team, scoring 5 goals apiece with Higuain, Messi, and someone else, but
Aguero.
That's
He's
right.
Argentinian. He's
Yes,
also pretty good at
yes.
soccer.
I was thinking Tevez, but no, he didn't score with Tevez.
He could throw him in. I get to check the rosters, but anyway, before we bid adieu, and we certainly thank you for tuning in, especially if you've stuck with us here throughout the duration of this podcast. Let's turn it back to Bronk for some important administrative announcements here as we get set to start this edition of the TFS World Cup.
Sure, just going over a couple things real quick. Again, if you haven't posted your 23-man roster, go ahead and get on that ASAP.
AKA myself. I apologize. Red Al.
And Colby.
I have not posted yet, and I think Colby's the only other one who hasn't. So
Colby, if you're listening,
it's just
get
two
off,
of us.
Get off the
Yeah.
beach and go submit your roster.
Colby's at the beach. I'm just at the office. Who is more to blame? Anyway, moving on.
Also, so the first round or the first set of group stage matches will open up this Wednesday. The full schedule you'll see shortly in the World Cup document. When you do schedule those matches, try to schedule them at least 24 hours in advance. Gives us some time to do a little prep work, maybe a preview, post some calendar, post it in GroupMe. So go ahead and make sure you get that done ahead of time. And I think that's pretty much it. Expect some a little bit of extra content along the way throughout the tournament. And I think that pretty much covers it.
There you have it. The conclusion of our first ever World Cup Draw podcast. We certainly thank you for tuning in and listening tonight, and a special thanks goes out to our live guests who took some time out of their evenings to have a little fun with us here as we revealed this bracket to you in an interesting way. Of course, we're on GroupMe. We see this banter going on. We see Knowles claiming he's going to check himself into the Final Four. Great pun. If anyone else has any other puns, get at it on the forums, on the GroupMe, and, of course, enjoy this World Cup. Final thoughts from you here, Akshat, before we say goodnight.
Good luck to everyone, and I hope Belgium wins it all.
Probably won't happen, but certainly an encouraging thought for yourself.
Oh, we have a late message from...
We'll let our commissioner here, Red Al, sign us off here on the podcast. Final thoughts.
Nice suit, nerd.
Oh, shouldn't have gone to him. Regret that decision to click the unmute button, and with that, we will say goodnight to you. Again, 24-hour scheduling. Let's have fun with this, guys, and if you're in this World Cup, good luck, except Colby. I wish him bad luck. That being said, good night to everybody, and again, sincerely, thanks for tuning in. We had fun doing this. Hope you had fun listening. We'll see you on GroupMe, and we'll see you on PSN. The World Cup starts soon.
Oh, and also good luck to Red Al in the World Cup. Oh, wait.
Oh.
Also not necessary.